New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Why, hello again. It's me, Bonnie, your doula for grief. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today is our 7th show, which I can't believe it. This has just been so wonderful and so magnificent. And I am just giving so much gratitude and love to New Thought Media Network for providing me with this beautiful platform to move grief from the shadows and into the light of our lives. And just to allow me to discuss the different forms of loss that can lead us to grief. And with that said, I realized that I have had 7 shows now. And I was so focused on making this show about you, the audience, in understanding the relationship of loss to grief, that I neglected to tell you a little bit about me, who I am. And so, with that said, again, my name is Bonnie Gonzalez, and I have been a registered nurse for, I'm telling secrets now, for over 40 years. And my specialty was always critical care, from critical care to the recovery room, from recovery room to home health nursing, which included hospice and palliative care. It feels, and not just feels, but my experience has been mainly with end-of-life care. And I have learned so much from end-of-life care. It has so enriched my life and just allowed me, I always say that I work really hard, but I play even harder. So being in those situations of life and death helped me put life in perspective and to have a balance. And I was gonna say, not only death and dying, but just being with people as they go through different experiences, doing home health, dealing with people that are in the midst of divorce or in the midst of other anguish in their lives that has just led them to be in deep grief. So I feel that I am more than prepared to discuss this topic. And not only being a registered nurse, I am a grief coach. I studied at New Ventures West in San Francisco, really rigorous program, and no regrets there. Just has helped make me a really well-rounded and knowledgeable doula for grief. So I thank you for hearing that. Oh, the one other part I should share is that I am a mother of 4 adult children and 2 beautiful little granddaughters, or 1 little one and 1 big one. And I just have a most loving and kind husband And we're residing here in Jalisco, Mexico, in the Lake Chapala area. So your doula for grief is a world traveler or global citizen. So thank you, thank you. I just wanted to share that with you so that you can know a little bit about me, making me a real person, and really acknowledging where and how I came to this beautiful calling that I have said yes to with no regrets whatsoever. So with that, I'm going to shift gears and just shift right into our program today. I'm just super excited to be having this upcoming dialogue. So today's theme is redefining parenthood in the midst of the war. Today we explore how parenting changes during and after the war, and not to mention the grief involved. And my special guest was very dear to my heart, Dr. Gil Olmstead. And he will share his knowledge and wisdom on this important topic, which affects more than 40% of the population. So that's a lot of people out there that will be able to relate to this topic. So I just invite you, as this program is going on, please feel free to join the conversation, drop a question, a comment into the comment box or comment sections. So with that said, I am going to just move forward with introducing my guest, Reverend Gil Olmstead, who is a staff minister at East Bay Church of Religious Science. He is a licensed Agape New Thought Ageless Wisdom Minister and an Agape licensed spiritual practitioner. Reverend Gil is a spiritual student with a drive to see the world in ever-expanding circles of understanding. And also, he is one of the co-hosts on Rockin the Love that appears right here on New Thought Media Network every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific time. So please help me in welcoming Reverend Gil to the stage. Yay! To the platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you for coming on.
So good to be here. Thank you, Bonnie.
Yes. One of the reasons, not the only reason, multiple reasons that I'm excited to have you here today, Reverend Gil, is because the guests I've had on in the past have been female and non-binary, and men, in my experience, grieve differently than women. So I thought this was broadening our horizon to hear it firsthand from a male. And so want to just welcome you with that. No pressure to go there with the male grieving, but that was one of the reasons that I was excited to give voice to both, all sides.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And yes, I think you're right. I think there are differences in goodness, that's kind of something else, isn't it? I'm grieving my hair at the moment. How different, it is for different people, and I think women tend to be a little more open about it, maybe, and discuss it more, or share what's going on in a different way than men do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I've had a couple males say this, that for them it's difficult because they feel that they're always being looked at, always being judged and needing to meet a higher standard than women. But I want to hear your words. That's just what I heard. It may not be true in your case.
I think it's more of an internalized, I can do it. And that's sort of how it is. I mean, I should be able to handle these things. And it's something that's sort of taught because of, you know, the setup that men somehow are providers and protectors and all those underlying things, which we all know are just ideas and in many ways have been blown up in terms of our culture, and not even really the way we operate, but they're still under there in terms of what, particularly, you know, folks our age who have grown up many years ago. You know, it was much more prevalent in the 60s and 70s than it is now. But it still exists. It still exists. You know, and we're sort of, so that thought of that I should be self-sufficient, I should make my own way, I should do all these things sort of affects then how we have permission or give ourselves permission to deal with loss in our lives.
Thank you. I do want to hear about your experience with the shift in relationship with your children
Okay.
after divorce. And I also was a divorced parent. So I think we have something in common along those lines. But I would love if you could share your story with our viewers.
Well, thank you. Well, let me just start by saying that I have 3 adult children, as you were mentioning. They grow up fast, and one of whom, my youngest, we are going to his wedding in the next couple weeks, so that's pretty exciting. We have three grandchildren. 2 twin girls and a boy, all from my daughter. And so that's where we are today. 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago, I was 22, 23 years ago. I was a married person with 3 kids, and my kids were like they were everything in my life. I mean, I was very involved with my kids all the time. And, you know, I've said this before, but many people would have described me as the primary parent.
Wow.
In terms of taking care of my kids. My wife at the time had some health issues, which made it difficult, and various things like that. And so anyway, when we hit this point of separating, we came up with how do we work with the kids, and I got a house that was close by, and we moved the kids back and forth. But it was not uncommon for me to have the kids, keep them for an extra day or two because mom's not feeling that great or whatever. And that was pretty normal, you know, that they would be with me, and, you know, and I was at their soccer games and their ballet and their, you know, any of it, all the regular stuff. I'm sure you know.
Yes. Yes, I know.
You know, sometimes you go, how in the world can these kids be so darn busy? But
yes, and they don't have jobs.
That's right. And how am I supposed to have a job and take care of them if I'm doing this? But anyway,
Exactly.
It was good. It was great. And then frankly, what happened was that after our divorce was final, we had an agreement, 50-50, everything was good. And then I met my current wife, and Robin, and that disrupted everything. And literally, I was told that no other woman will ever be with my children. And so from that point forward, there was a vast amount of turmoil. There was accusations of serious impropriety. There were family court, and, you know, where you don't really, no one ever really says you did anything wrong, but they just say that because we think you might have, this is how it is. You know, there's never any chance to say. So anyway, so I went through monitored visitations and all of this stuff for over a year. And I finally said, I'm done. I don't think this is healthy for the kids. I don't think it's healthy for me. And I am not going to fight your petition to take full custody of the children. And interestingly enough, that resulted in major backlash as well, because of course that meant she lost a certain level of control. However, it also meant that I then didn't see my kids for a period of time. It took quite a little while before I was able to get to where we actually had some visitations and we could actually see them. But of course, all of it was on the terms of I had to come up to where they lived. I had to spend time there. You know, all of it was very difficult and expensive, and, you know, all of those things. And I missed a lot. And so I was torn up, because here's the thing. I went from being a fully invested full-time father to feeling like I didn't see my kids. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know what's going on with them. And I had to really come to some place where I could go, okay, this has to be, I have to trust that my kids are getting what they need. I have to trust that somehow in this process, my children are receiving what they need to grow and to become the people they need to become. And I did that. And the way I did it for myself was that I did a lot of spiritual growth and seeking and study, and spent a lot of my time focused on that, so that, you know, I took up the time that it has been focused with my kids. And so anyway, I had to readjust what it meant to be a parent, and I had to go to the place of loving them as best I could from where I was, from where they were, and trying to understand. You know, I remember a particular time, we went, and this was several years later, 7 or 8 years later, 7 years later, I don't know, something like that. It's around 7 years later, I think. And we were at an event that we went to, a soccer event or something, and I ended up talking with my oldest son, and he was really angry. It's about 16 or something at the time. And he was angry and he was upset with me, and, you know, that idea that I had left them and abandoned them, and, you know, all of that. Well, that was, you know, while I'm sure all those feelings were real and true, and I had to, you know, hold that space, you know, even though in my heart, it was horrible, because that's never what I wanted to do. Right. But also what I realized was that the second husband had left. And so suddenly he had been abandoned again by another man. And so the safe person to take that to was me. So the plus side was that I could be that space, that I could be the space to say, I love you. And I'm sorry you feel this way. And I hear you. I understand it. And if there was anything I could do to make it different, I would. You know, but this is where it's at. And this is what we have. And so over the years, I've continually had to remind myself that I'm the parent.
Yes.
Because, you know, when they don't communicate for Father's Day or your birthday, or they don't call you back, or they don't answer your, you know, text or whatever it is, you know, on a regular basis. And you're like, what the hell? You know, how am I supposed to have a relationship with you if we can't ever talk? But it's not, it's my job to continue to keep looking for ways to pull that together. And have I failed at it? Oh my God, yes. But I keep coming back to, okay, breathe. What do we do from here? You know, because I love my kids. I love my kids. That's all there is to it.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Wow. Wow. Thank you. There's so many points that I want to touch on there, Gil, and Reverend Gil. But the first one is that what you said about kids growing up fast. And I was a single parent as well with 4 kids. And somebody said that to me. And I said, are you serious? This is not going fast enough. It's like, can you fast forward? Because I'm getting pretty fried. But what I was going to say, when you talked about bringing in another partner, when you met Robin, how did you handle that? Because from my experience, it's like if you have tension between the new person and tension with the children, you are forced to make a choice. Because it's not like, come on, we're going to go to Disneyland and Robin's coming with us, hop in the car. They're like, no, I don't want to go to Disneyland if she doesn't want to go. If she goes, how did you handle the blending of that, or within yourself? How did you come to a conclusion that was good for you?
Generally speaking, we didn't have that issue. Actually, the kids were very open. The issue was mom. And she would make it a point to call the kids anytime they were with us, have a talk with them, make sure that we knew that she was there all the time. Even though we'd have them for 2 days out of the month. I mean, it's like, okay, they'll be okay for 2 days.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
And it was her the issue was whenever we were trying to do stuff when everybody was in one place. And my own animosity and my own needing to work through my feelings of anger and stuff with her, and I had to move to a place of forgiving her, because that's just what it was. This was the best she could do. This is the best she could do. And I think one of the things that happened for us was there were multiple places where we got little glimpses where either friends of hers, that were more in town with them and everything and with the kids, or other people, even the ex-husband at one point, took us aside and spoke to us and confirmed some of our own pain and frustration in terms of, that we weren't crazy in what we were seeing.
Right.
That this made sense. This is how she was acting and presenting in the world. And so that opened up the space for us to work with it, and to do the best we could, because the point was, how do I show up for the kids? How do I come to their game? How do I show up to this event? How do I make some, time that we do have together fun, and not make it about that? And I made it a point, and I think Robin would even argue that I was too good at this.
Okay.
But I never talked bad about their mom.
Oh, Gil, that's just what I was going to ask you.
I wanted to.
Did you monitor your dialogue with your kids about their mom when you were with them? And what impact do you think that had? What do you think the effect of that was?
I'm not sure, but I think it helped because we didn't put them in a position to have to defend anyone or to feel whatever around that, because that's the thing. I think there's a tendency when that kind of stuff happens and the kid feels like, well, whose side am I on?
Right.
And whatever they were getting at home, whatever negativity they may have been getting there, I had to just allow that to be and trust that ultimately it would find its way out, it would find its way through. And And I think for a good part it has, but there's still that thing there, you know, where mom's always in the middle of it and they're always going to mom and that kind of thing. And I'm really kind of on the outside. And and at the same time, whenever we do have a moment and, you know, I can get them to answer a call. or we do, you know, when that happens, you know, it's like everything is perfect. You know, and we've had some wonderful times with them. You know, some years ago, Robin and I and our two godkids who we live with now, and their mom, and our goddaughter from Southern California, and all three of my kids, we all went on a houseboat together. And it was such a fun, relaxing family. You know, we played cards, we talked, you know, my eldest son drank beer. You know,
yes, with your son, but he's of age now, so
yeah, he was of age. But I'm just saying it was just like, it was casual. It was family. It was hanging out. It was okay. It was good. And I've had a few of those times where it's just been so, you know, like, this is family. And we've had the Thanksgiving times where we've intentionally set up our Thanksgiving to happen on Saturday, not on Thursday, because mom always has it and they're always going to mom's. But we can sometimes get them to come and hang with us on Saturday. And so we have a Thanksgiving thing then, and then, you know, we get to hang out some together. And so these kinds of things we've done, and it has helped. But like I say, the biggest thing with it was that relationship between the mom and I, and me finding ways to be okay with it, you know, and to also stand in my power in it as well, you know, and to trust it. And, you know, I have been able to speak to my daughter, you know, after her wedding, where there was some issues that came up while we were there, and I spoke to her and told her what I felt and what I saw, and she confirmed that, you know, that was not me. That was, you know, what that was mom's own doing.
Right.
You know?
I hear that.
It was like, okay, all right.
And I do want to back up to about with your son at age 16, because there may be parents are listening right now that have those teenage years that they are living through, and I'm here to tell you, you will survive, and the child will survive as well. But I want to know, how did you help diffuse that anger, or were you able to? Did you have to let that anger in your 16-year-old ride? What was how did you handle the anger from your son?
What I did, you know, again, I didn't have the luxury of you know, talking to him the next day or next week kind of thing in the same way. We did try to stay in touch on the phone a lot, but in general, you know, there wasn't that same kind of just casual, this is going to happen and come out and we can bring it up later. But in the moment, at the time that it came out and we were at this thing together, we went for a walk by ourselves. I just listened, and I tried to reassure him that, you know, I love you, and I hear you, and you can be mad at me if you need to be, and that's okay. That's okay. You know, I think if I was you, I'd probably be pissed too, because I said, you know, I knew for me that when the whole thing first came up that we were going to get a divorce, I was like, oh my God, this is not what I had planned. This was not how my life was supposed to go. And so I know that disappointment and that frustration and that anger is like, wait, this isn't how life works, you know, but it was, and it is, and it does. And
yes,
I don't know how to say that any better.
You said it well.
There were multiple places, you know, where the loss was just overwhelming. but I had to keep trusting that somehow we were gonna come through it,
Mm-hmm.
and that we we're gonna find our way to something new eventually, and that it wasn't so much that I lost those years with them. It was just that I had to re-understand my role in those years.
Mm. Redefining those roles in that period. And I want to share something before we move to our comments, or maybe right now, I'll just read the comment from Robin Rice, and you may know her. How did you deal with the pain and grief from those times? Divorce, disappointment, loss of kids, the dream, the image. And Robin, thank you for asking that question, because the question I'd like to add on to that, Robin, is how did you deal with the attack on your character? That is something that, we can't say mom, we can't say the kids. It's like how did you move through that?
Mm-hmm.
How did you move through that attack on your character? And just sharing.
It's interesting because I never felt, well, I did it at some point later in the process. I felt like, this has just been an attempt to get control. But in the moment, my biggest concern was for the health and safety and well-being of my children.
Mm.
And so when something first came to my attention that they thought something was wrong, I said, well, how would we come to why? Where is this happening? Why is this coming out? Why since I know that there's nothing here from me, my question is, why is it being focused at me? And the only reason I can think of is because I'm safer than whoever it is that's really involved. And so how do we figure out who or what we're really dealing with? And that was my focus.
Mm-hmm.
Was how do I do that? And I curled up in a ball and cried.
Mm-hmm.
I had fits of depression that were pretty intense,
Mm-hmm.
I would say. I've been suicidal at different times in that process.
Going through that process.
And I had to, I had to keep looking to those who could see the truth in me and know that I was more than all of this.
And I did want to ask, did you reach out for help during those fits of depression? Did you just white knuckle it? How did you move through those dark times?
Like I said, I went through practitioner training and ministerial training.
Yes, that'll move you in one way or the other. But no.
And so, I did some work with practitioners. I did some work with a therapist. I did a fair amount of white knuckling.
Mm-hmm.
I had friends, and probably most importantly, I had Robin to. And I think the biggest thing that Robin ever has done for me around this is that she doesn't let me believe my stuff. She sees, it doesn't matter how I act. It doesn't matter how ridiculous or angry or unkind or any of those things that I act. Robin never stops seeing who I am.
Yeah, and reminding you of that goodness that she sees.
And because she is able to do that, I can only hold up my facade for so long. I can only hold up this thing of it's all after me and everybody hates me and and I'm bad and you're bad and everything else is bad, and I can't sustain it, because it's not the truth. It's the truth of a particular moment or how it feels, but it's not the truth.
Yeah, Reinhardt just put in the chat that never believe what you think. Never believe what you think. And that's back to the mind is like a neighborhood that's really bad. Don't go in alone. So make sure Robin is accompanying you. I want to say, you talked about, the loss of that dream, or Robin put that in the question, the loss of a dream. And I was going to say, for my own divorce, I been divorced with 4 kids, and I moved cross country. And my son, who was 13 at the time, refused at the last minute, to come with me to California. He wanted to stay with his dad. And I was one of those moms, if I'm not going to live with that person, I don't want my kids to live with them either. So he stayed with his dad, and the outcome was not very good. But what I want to say is about that leaving, that I did not realize, because in the process of being a single parent, trying to housing, working, as you said, kids with busy schedules, trying to keep them engaged, that I didn't realize that divorce was such a big loss and that I was in such grief. And this was years after I had become divorced and left their dad and living the single parent life, that I had a dream one night. I dreamt that I was in the car with my ex-husband and he was driving. The 4 kids were in the back seat of the car and we were just driving. And suddenly I look over to him and he has turned into a sun visor. And I'm thinking, what? A sun visor? So yeah, Rev Gil, I take the sun visor, I toss it out the window, I get in the driver's seat, and I keep driving. I'm still going with these 4 kids. And finally, I get to this place that looked like a mosque or a temple. A mosque or, yeah, I guess temple. And the women were like the Middle East, and they were, heads covered. And I remember going in, and they said to me, "Oh, sister, what's wrong?" And do you know, I started to wail, not cry, but wail, just wail. Because in that part of the country, wailing is truly acceptable and expected if you're really brokenhearted and really depressed. And I wailed and wailed. And I finally said, I never wanted to be divorced with 4 children. I always, just like you, had that dream of like 5 kids and John Boy and good night, John Boy, come on downstairs for a kiss. I never wanted that. So that's when I realized, wow, I really was in a state of grief, but having so many activities and so many ongoing life activities, not having time to recognize that. And it was at that point that I thought I should reach out for help, because there was some unresolved and unprocessed things. Anything like that for you? Any insight to grieving?
I can just, first of all, thank you. I hear that. I get it. I get what you're talking about. I think mine was, it was really hard when it first came up that we were going to divorce. That was incredibly hard.
Yes.
And I saw, I think in some ways all the stuff I talked about at the very beginning about, providing and doing this and doing that. And I had let my family down. My family was going to fall apart. It was my fault. And, and so, and then I was grieving that picture of, getting old and having the grandkids and watching the kids go to college and, all of the different pieces that would happen. And they weren't going to happen the way I thought. And the vision of my children having a stable home. Right.
Yes.
And it didn't mean that they didn't have a stable home, but they certainly weren't going to have the one that I thought they were going to have.
Yes, yes.
Right.
And
Um,
it's rearranging the picture in a way that fits. Mine was, well, then I will just allow them to participate in as many activities as they like. I would be, my vow to them mentally, not that I told them, that I would not introduce anybody else into my life, that they didn't have a father. So I was going to be a full-time 200% parent for them.
mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that was good at all. I mean, I can look back and see different things there, but that's how I was able to square it with myself at that time. That I can't give them that beautiful picture of a 2-parent household and all the comforts that go with that. But I would give what I could give.
Well, I have to say, I couldn't have, I frankly couldn't have, I don't believe, survived had I not had a partner.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I was in a place where if I had not had Robin, I don't know how I would have made it through. And literally what set the thing off was my saying, I've met someone, I think she's going to be important in my life. She would like to meet you, and then we meet the kids, and that's what ended the amicable process. You know, we already had signed agreements and everything, and all of a sudden it was over.
So it sounds like your partner's issue that came to that you had not planned on. Sounds like
no, I hadn't planned on that being such. I mean, I was trying to do it as, we were trying to do it as, I don't know, the best way we could, you know, and not, you know, I was just giving her heads up, you know, this she's going to be important. And if that's the case, she's probably going to meet the kids. And so we want to do this right. If that comes to that, there wasn't even like, we want to meet next week. There was not, it was just this kind of the heads up, you know?
Right. There was a comment from Laura. Could you put that back up, Diego? Or okay, Gil. How do we navigate our children wanting an apology, even if that's not in alignment with our feelings as a parent?
That's a good question, Laura. You know,
could I take?
I think that. I was going to say, I think just briefly, I think that's the piece where I go, I'm the parent. As much as, you know, I want to know that's not right. And I didn't really do that. And that's not what it is. And whatever those feelings are, I have, or, you know, and they may be super legit, but how can I step up and find the place to be the bigger person to somehow hold them in that in some way, you know? And maybe I don't go, well, I'm really sorry for X, Y, and Z. I go, I'm really sorry. That's what's come up for you in this. And that's not the intention. And here's what it was. But I honor your feelings, and I'm really sorry you're having those, you know? And I'd really like to comfort you in that somehow.
Thank you, Reverend Gil. And that has come up for me as well. And do I want to say demand for an apology? With that demand came a time for me to look deeper within myself, to find my boundaries, to define how much, or to realize how much I have given. Not that it needs to be taken to that level. For me, I'm just keeping it in the eye. But I just feel like an apology, when apologies are demanded, it's a great time to look deeper and to go deeper. And I love that you explained to your son what was going on at the time, because we all hear what we hear at certain times in our life, certain times in our development. So for me, that was the perfect time to hear again what was going on at that time. And Reverend Gil, I think I said this to you, that people that don't have kids, I wonder who keeps them in check. You know, who or what makes them look deeper at themselves. So yeah, it's an ongoing process. Our children can really allow us to find deeper levels of ourselves, deeper levels of ourselves.
I think children either set us on a path for some really deep spiritual work, or they totally derail it. But it's
well, that's a matter of perspective. Maybe the derailing had to happen, like Pima Chodron says, when things fall apart, that is the perfect time to put them back together.
Yes,
Wait.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. It's the perfect time. And it causes us to grow, and we have to take the advantage of, okay, what am I to learn here? What is it that I can, if I can continue to grow, then I can continue to move into being the father, the better father that I would like to be. You know, I mean, if I refuse to look at those things and I refuse to grow, then I'm not going to offer them anything in terms of of how they can act as they grow up and how they can work with their kids as they, you know, I mean, I'm not giving them anything unless I'm willing to grow. And I'll tell you, frankly, there have been a couple points where I wanted to talk to my kids. You know, I've wanted to talk to them for several years now, since they reached adulthood, and sit them down and show them all the paperwork and go, here's what really happened.
and maybe that time will come too.
Right. And it hasn't come. And frankly, there have been times when I've been afraid to be honest with them. And that's one of my other growing edges, is growing into the person of being honest is a really important thing.
Yes.
You know, and so just because I'm afraid I'm going to lose something from them, or they're going to reject me, or, you know, I've got to move past that and become the bigger person, if you will, not bigger than them, but the bigger than I've been, so that I can hold that space and know that whether or not, you know, they come running to me and go, oh, Dad, that's thanks. Sorry, I didn't know, you know, or whatever. If they say, oh, Dad, go jump in a lake, that my telling them and being honest with them at some level is serving them and is serving me.
Right. And then too, when you're talking about that honesty, Reverend Gil, I think too, when we offer an apology, being honest, I think before we do any of that, in my experience, asking myself, what am I expecting in return? Am I doing this to truly be open and giving? Or am I waiting to hear, oh, Mom, you're the best. Oh, my gosh, I couldn't have lived my life without you. What happens if they say, I'm even more angry now. This makes it even worse. So it's coming from, what is my intention with that explanation, in that, you know, apology. As I said, it comes back to looking inside. Laura had a question, and then I'm going to ask you maybe one last question. Or Robin Laura had a comment. Woo! She said, yes, Bonnie, I agree. Our children are fantastic invitations for healing. healing or making the wound deeper. So, but we'll go with yes.
Well, and I will just comment, you know, I know you mentioned Robin and I do our Rockin the Love show, and its premise is that it's about relationship, the joy of relationship. And every relationship we're in, no matter what it is, if we take it seriously, will call us to growth. Right? Because we're going to have the reflection back of who we are. We're going to, you know, and our kids especially. I mean, you know, you watch your kid and they'll do something and you realize, oh my God, that's me. You know, what was I thinking?
Oh, that's a sweet Rockin the Love there.
There we are.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. But, it's all about relationship, and we do it in our primary relationships. We do it in our parent and child relationship. We do it with our parents, and it's all places to grow.
Wow. Gil, this time it's just flying past so quickly. So 2 quick questions, and I'll just read us a poem.
Okay.
And this has just been beautiful sharing this time with you. I've had dreams about this interview today, and it's just all been good, and I'm not disappointed. Okay, I want to just ask you, what could someone have said to you that would have made you feel better going through what you went through? What is it that someone could have said, or you wish that someone, maybe you wish that someone had said as you were going through this?
That's a good question. I don't know that anyone could have said anything, I mean, it was, I think the biggest thing was trust it and let it, trust the process and just continue to love in the best of your ability. Continue to love. What struck me when you said that was, we got reinforcement, we got whatever from lawyers and friends and different places all along the line. They're all different aspects, but things that confirmed that okay, so yes, we're getting a divorce, we got a divorce, and I certainly played a major role in that, but some of this, what we're observing is what we're observing. That is what's happening. Then I have to go, and everyone is doing the best they can.
Yes.
And I think that's the other part. Maybe that's something someone could say, is to remind you, everyone's doing the best they can.
Yes.
And this that doesn't look like love to you is the best way they know how to love in this situation. This is them loving the kids. This is them trying to love those children through this process. And it may not look like what I think it should look like, but it's still what it is.
Right. And the best validator to heal grief. I mean, grief is grief, but the way to start to heal from that is to have validation. Yeah. So it sounds like you had your own personal doula for grief, which was Robin.
Yes.
And your friends to help you validate what was going on.
And just not to get caught up in trying to get them to, agree with all of my angst, but to just validate that, it makes sense that you're having those feelings. You know what I mean? Because sometimes my angst could be pretty, scary. So
one last question. I promise. Where can you be more kinder to yourself in this process? Where can you be kinder to yourself in this process? If you're one of those parents that's right in the middle of it, the court battle, the kids being angry and yelling, where can you be kinder to yourself?
I think for me, it would be to continue to look at where you've been and where you are. Because one of the things, that Robin has helped me with is seeing, when I would get depressed and I would be in bed for days, and I literally wouldn't get out of bed for 2 or 3 or 4 days. And now I can be depressed and get out of bed in 20 minutes. You know what I mean?
It moves through quicker. It moves through. It comes.
And when it happens, I feel like look at me, I'm still depressed. I still can't handle these things, right? That's my first go-to thought. And that's not the truth. The truth is that I need to feel the loss. I need to feel whatever that grief is that's going on. And I know that it doesn't have to define me. It doesn't have, none of it has to define me. So, when you're in the midst of this isn't defining who you are. This is
like it, but
yeah, it may feel like it, but these are feelings, and the biggest thing is to love yourself, to find out how to love yourself. And some of that is, doing what you need to do. If there's, move or get involved in a new sport. I don't know. Do something that you want to do.
Yes.
And allow yourself to do that and enjoy it, and have your own friends. You can't be only friends with your kids and with their friends. That's not going to work.
Having your own life, having your interests that are just for you, that it's
right.
something you're doing that be a better parent or to take back. No, I agree with that. Find things that only satisfies you.
Yeah.
Oh, as I said, the time is there. Am I hearing music? Okay. Well, I am going to just end with this poem, and I will just be brief. This is from Gibran. Okay. And a woman who held a babe against her breast said, "Speak to us of children." And he said, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backwards, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are set forth. The archer seeks the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. And that is my show for today, Gil. Reverend Gil,
thank you.
You are the best. You're a rock star. Please join Reverend Gil and his beautiful wife, Robin Olmstead, on Wednesdays at 12 noon on New Thought Media for Rockin the Love. So this is beautiful. Thank you to New Thought Media Network for being here, for sponsoring this. Please donate so that quality programs coming forth. And remember to ask yourself, what do I need today? What do I need? And go and do whatever that is. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And please help us welcome Om Center for Spiritual Living in La Mesa, California. Thank you for your monthly donation. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, for your most generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferlin Foundation for your generous technology grant. And Suze Ajit. Thank you for your very generous donation. And a super special thank you to Dr. Tracy Brown, RScP. Thanks for being a super